My name is Michael Francis, the Chief Conductor of the Norrköping Symphony Orchestra, and my great pleasure to welcome you to one of our new soloist interviews, and delighted to welcome an old friend and colleague, David Pyatt. Welcome to the orchestra, David.
Thank you.
Perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right, well, I'm a horn player, obviously. I play for the London Philharmonic Orchestra as principal horn. I was in the London Symphony for about 15 years prior to that. Going further back, I won the BBC Young Musician of the Year in about 1988, which I think is about a quarter of a century ago now, when I was 14 years old, playing Strauss's Second Horn Concerto.
Yes. Well, of course, we know each other well. We were colleagues in the London Symphony Orchestra. And perhaps you could tell us just a little bit about what it's like to be a London musician in terms of the variety of work and how that all fits together.
I think it's a fairly unique situation in London in as much as the main orchestras are freelance. So the London Symphony, the Philharmonia, the Royal Philharmonic, and what's the other one?
Your band.
And the LPO, of course, are all freelance orchestras. So we pretty much get paid when we work. There's very little job security, and we have to do an awful lot of work to earn enough money to live in London. Having said that, there are significant upsides to the life, which is obviously the variety of work that we do, ranging from symphony concerts to film recordings to classical recordings, touring. I mean, we do everything pretty much.
Yeah, it is a very busy life. It seems when I was there that 1 year in the LSO was like 3 years in most jobs. You get through so much repertoire. And talking of film music, I think one thing which is interesting is some of the big films you played on. Perhaps you'd like to tell us a few about those.
Yes. Over the last 15 years or so, I've been lucky enough to play solo horn on all three of the new Star Wars, parts 1, 2 and 3, Star Wars films. The vast majority of the Harry Potter films as well. I think I missed one of them. Lord of the Rings, all sorts of things. We get to do a huge variety of commercial work.
Yeah,
well.
And for me, when I was playing double bass, it was always, the film sessions were nice because they were well paid, but they were quite boring for me. But for you, you get all the big tunes. You loved it.
Well, I mean, when you're recording for people like John Williams and James Horner, they know how to write for the instrument, and it's wonderful. You turn up to work and you open the pad, and page 1 looks like a new piece by Strauss has just been discovered or something, and it's great fun to play.
Yeah. Talking of Strauss, I don't know any other composer who's written 2 concertos at such different stages of his life. I think there's 6 decades between the first and the second. Perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about this concerto and what it means to you, and also what you feel it meant to Strauss at the time.
Right, yeah, I mean, that's a 2-part question. What it means to me, it means a huge amount to me. I grew up in Watford, that's near London, and my father was a horn player when he was a kid at school. By all accounts, he was pretty terrible, but it didn't stop him loving the music written for the instrument, and I grew up with the sound of the horn through record. And I do mean records, vinyls. Barry Tuckwell's recording with Kurtesh and the London Symphony Orchestra. So very much, this was in my blood, so to speak, when I was growing up. And then, as I said earlier, I played Strauss's Second Horn Concerto in the final for the BBC.
Which I watched on television.
Wow.
I remember watching that very clearly, seeing this little boy who was not much bigger than the horn and glasses, playing brilliantly. I remember it very well. And to the concerto itself. It's
interesting, as you say, that the 2 concertos were written such a long way apart from each other, and you can hear it in the music. I mean, the first concerto is like Don Juan, as opposed to the second concerto, which is much closer to, say, Four Last Songs in character, much more autumnal, mellow, melancholy, all those words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interestingly, it's much harder to play than the first concerto. And now, I say interestingly because one would have thought that when he started off, he was going to be really ambitious and try and show what he could do. But actually, it was the opposite with Strauss. As he got further and further into his life and his career, he started writing things which were really pushing the boundaries of the instrument. His father, Franz Strauss, was a horn player. And apparently, when he was presented with the first concerto, Franz Strauss was reported to have said, "This is ridiculous, it's completely unplayable." So I dread to think what he would have said if he was confronted with the second concerto.
Yeah. Well, from what we can tell from the rehearsal we just had, it's most definitely playable and in your hands for sure. So we look forward to tomorrow night, and thank you for coming this way to Norrköping.
Pleasure's all mine.
Great.
Thank you.